Golf for so many years has been a textbook sport, an art that constantly needs fine-tuning, but can never be mastered. Books were created with the knowledge that we had, inspiring young golfers and creating legends that would dominate the sport. But as time progressed and technology advanced, the new studies debunked the textbook golfer, and an evolution of free-swinging players would emerge. Born in 1978 in the small town of Baghdad, Florida, Jerry Lester Watson Jr. didn't grow up like many professional golfers. The name Bubba came from his father, who named him after pro football player Bubba Smith. His father Jerry was a former Green Beret who introduced his son to the game of golf. Practice consisted of hitting a wiffle ball around the back garden, and never having a lesson, Bubba just enjoyed hitting the ball as hard as he could to see how far he could hit it. Jerry didn't discipline his son too hard, but he was very persistent on young Bubba getting better. At some point, Bubba was taught the correct way to grip the club, and then the hard-hitting teenager was ready to start competing. His competitive journey started through high school when he played on the Milton High golf team with fellow PGA Tour players Boo Weekley and Heath Slocum. His time there saw him progress very quickly, and his scoring average backed that up. He averaged 72.93 through high school, and with that attracted attention from many colleges. He enrolled into Faulkner State Junior College to study consumer economics, and whilst there became a junior college All-American. His time there was short-lived though, as after a short while he transferred to the University of Georgia. The Bulldogs were the defending NCAA champions, but Bubba's arrival wasn't as successful. As a junior, Watson helped lead the Bulldogs to the SEC title in 2000, but in his senior year, Bubba only played in one event. The best thing to come out of his time in Athens was meeting his 6'3" basketball girlfriend, Angie. Angie played for the Bulldogs basketball team and was very successful in her time there. She was diagnosed with an enlarged pituitary gland, which was the reason behind her height. So after leaving college and turning professional in 2002, Bubba joined the Nationwide Tour, where he would play until 2005, becoming the last player to qualify on that season's money list. With nothing to shout about thus far, Bubba was just doing his own thing, like he always had. Bubba golf was an art in itself. Well, half art, half explosion. The amount of power Bubba would generate should in theory be uncontrollable, but that's exactly what Bubba wants. Because he never wants to hit it straight, every shot is either a huge slice or a huge draw, which essentially limits his misses to one side of the course. So after inventing a brand new style of golf, Bubba's impact on the PGA Tour was huge. In his first 3 seasons, he topped the PGA Tour driving list and earned over $1 million in his first year, albeit 90th on the money list. So even though he hadn't won, he still built up a huge fan base because people just wanted to see him bomb it and watch this unique style of play. The unique style would soon come into fruition though in 2010. His first PGA Tour win came on the 27th of June in Cromwell, Connecticut at the Travelers Championship. He beat Corey Pavin and Scott Verplank on the second hole of a playoff. Bubba dedicated the win to his father, who was battling throat cancer. In a tearful interview, Watson said, "It's the kind of guy I am. I cry all the time. I cry at church every Sunday, and I cry at stuff on TV, especially if it involves family hardship." Bubba's personality was really starting to show, as he didn't let any of his raw feelings take a back seat. Later that year, he would eventually lose his father, and more bad fortune was about to come his way. Remember when Dustin Johnson was penalised for unwittingly grounding his club in a bunker on the final hole of the PGA Championship? Well, Bubba was kicking himself at the end of that day too. Following a final round of 68, Watson lost the 3-hole playoff to Martin Kaymer when he double bogeyed the final hole after going for an aggressive approach shot and finding a hazard. Hey, playing Bubba golf doesn't always work, but the performance proved he could seriously contend at a major. After being at the top of the golfing headlines, Bubba began a journey on social media that would today make him the 10th most followed golfer in the world. It all started with a happy birthday trick shot that he sent to Ellen DeGeneres, wishing her a happy birthday, which then saw him be invited onto the show. That popularity would see him invited to Europe to play in the French Open, where he made a guest appearance and was paid $200,000 for his time. As mad as that sounds, it wasn't the outrageous money being gifted to him for doing something he probably would have been doing anyway. Bubba's innocent, humorous personality was getting him into a little bit of trouble. After missing the cut, Bubba spoke to the media about his time travelling whilst in Paris. He went on to call certain Parisian landmarks, or as Bubba put it, that big tower, or the building starting with L, and this arch I drove round in a circle. The sensitive French were absolutely outraged by the comments from Watson, but the triggered Bubba was about to retaliate and get himself into trouble one more time before flying back. Frustrated with his performance, Watson was critical of the tournament setup as he blamed outside factors for his scoring. It's different for me. There's cameras, there's phones, there's everything. No security, Watson complained to Sky Sports after his round. I don't know which holes to walk through. There's no ropes. It's something I'm not used to. I'm not comfortable with it. When the French finally calmed down, and thankfully for us, Bubba didn't change his personality. In fact, he exaggerated it. 2011 would see the release of Golf Boys, a charity single released on YouTube by Bubba, Ricky Fowler, Ben Crane, and Hunter Mahan. The Farmers Insurance Group promised to donate money for every 1,000 views the video reached, which definitely added up as it now sits at over 8 million views. The temperament of Bubba was attracting fans. His outlandish mannerisms had people comparing him to John Daly, and his comments about never working out and preferring sleep really resonated with people. Regardless of his work ethic off the course, Bubba's performances on the course saw him have a fantastic start to the 2012 season. Watson began the year with 3 top 5 finishes in 7 events, including finishing second at the WGC Cadillac Championship. That second would be trumped though in April, when Bubba put on a majestic performance at Augusta. He began the final round at 6 under par, 3 strokes off the lead, held by Peter Hansen. On the back 9, Watson bogeyed the par 3 12th hole to return to even par for the round. A bad start, but he'd make up for it with 4 consecutive birdies for a round of 68 4 under par, and tied for the 72-hole lead with 4th round playing partner Louis Oosthuizen at 10 under par. In the sudden death playoff, Oosthuizen and Watson both made their par on the uphill 18th hole. On the next hole, the downhill 10th, both drove their tee shots towards the woods to the right of the hole. Oosthuizen landed in the rough 220 yards away, whilst Watson's ball landed deep in the woods on Pine Straw, 164 yards from the pin, without a clear shot to the green. There was only one man in golf who could pull off this kind of shot. A huge hook with a 52-degree gap wedge under that amount of pressure, Bubba pulled off one of the greatest shots in not only Masters history, but golfing history. He hooked the ball to 15 feet, and after Oosthuizen's approach shot landed short of the green, Watson trickled his birdie putt a foot past the hole, took his time on the very short par putt, and then made it for the emotional victory. Tears of joy streamed down his face as his caddy hugged him, followed by his mum as they both looked to the heavens knowing his father was looking down on him. Watching from home was his wife, who celebrated alone as she clung to their new adopted baby boy, Caleb. The new world number 4 had far too many things on his mind in 2013. After reaching a career high, Bubba had a miserable season. Family was taking over, and his mind was elsewhere. 2014 was different though. After adapting to dad life, Bubba's form completely switched. At the Waste Management Phoenix Open, Watson held the lead for most of the tournament, but he finished runner-up to Kevin Stadler. Watson then earned his 5th career PGA Tour victory and his first since the 2012 Masters at the 2014 Northern Trust Open at Riviera Country Club. He shot back-to-back 64s over the weekend to defeat runner-up Dustin Johnson by 2 strokes. He followed that win up with 2 more strong finishes, a 9th place tie at the WGC Essentra Match Play Championship, and a 2nd place tie in the WGC Cadillac Championship. The run of great form came at a great time with the Masters up next, and people were putting Bubba as one of the favourites. He got off to a great start and was leading heading into the final round. He entered the final round tied for the lead with 20-year-old Masters rookie Jordan Spieth. Playing together in the final pairing, Spieth birdied the 7th hole for a 2-stroke lead over Watson. However, the momentum turned on the par 5 8th hole. Spieth had a birdie putt, but ended up 3-putting for bogey whilst Watson birdied to pull into first place. Then, on the 9th hole, Watson birdied again while Spieth bogeyed, and the 4-shot swing over the 2 holes gave Watson a lead that he never relinquished in a win over Spieth and Jonas Blixt. With the win, Watson became the 17th player to win the Masters 2 or more times and moved them again into number 4 in the official World Golf Rankings. In a season where Watson went 296 holes without a 3-putt and reclaiming his Masters green jacket, it still wasn't the highlight of his year. Something must be in the air at Augusta because it grants Bubba with all his wishes. Him and his wife took to social media in December to share the world their 2nd adopted child, Dakota. With a family complete and his game in a stable place, the time was right to move the family to somewhere more homely in Pensacola. Here, Bubba made it his responsibility to give back to the community. He invested money into the local baseball team, opened a sweet shop, bought a Chevrolet dealership, and now has plans to run for mayor. With life very comfy at the moment and his career achievements far outweighing the average professional golfer, he was happy to quit professional golf, spend more time with his family, and retire working in his sweet shop. Starting to talk absolute madness, it was actually Bubba's wife Angie who persuaded Bubba to continue playing golf. The persuasion was just what Bubba needed, as the next few years would see him reach another career high of 3rd in the official World Golf rankings. He'd win at the Travelers Championship and the Hero World Challenge, and the flame still seemed like it was burning brightly. Whilst burning brightly, Bubba's media presence was getting heated again as the media tried to twist his word once again, trying to get a reaction. Prior to the Waste Management Phoenix Open in early February 2016, Watson caused a bit of controversy after publicly admitting he disliked the course at TPC Scottsdale. As a result, he was jeered by fans for the majority of the tournament, later criticising the media for the turning of his words. 2 weeks later though, he returned to the winner's circle after winning the Northern Trust Open at Riviera for a second time in 3 years, seeing off the challenge of Adam Scott and Jason Kokrak to win by 1 shot. From here, things started to slow down for Bubba. With the thought of retirement already playing on his mind, his family knew it wouldn't be long before those thoughts would come back. 2017 can be chalked off as a loss, but 2018 was an incredibly successful year. He started the season with a tied 7th at the QBE shootout, marking his best of his first 6 starts. Then he put on a show at the Genesis Open with a 12 under par finish in February. His 3rd victory at this tournament, and all of them at Riviera. His trifecta at the Genesis makes him only the 5th player to win this long-standing event at least 3 times, along with Ben Hogan, Arnold Palmer, Lloyd Mangrum, and McDonald Smith. In March, he gained his 11th tour win at the WGC Dell Match Play event in Austin, Texas, and then on June 24th in 2018, he won again at the Travelers for the 3rd time, a result which would evidently be his last on the PGA Tour. The next 4 years were pretty ugly for Bubba. He didn't manage a win even though he was in the 2018 Ryder Cup, meaning after playing in 4 Ryder Cups over the years, he wasn't successful in any of them. Whilst never successful in a Ryder Cup, Bubba was incredibly successful on the PGA Tour, winning 12 times including 2 Masters, racking up a career earnings of $50 million. An incredible amount of money which Bubba had worked so hard for over the last 20 years, but when LIV came knocking and offered the same amount just to sign for the breakout tour, it suddenly didn't have the same meaning. The future of golf is still up in the air, and whether LIV continues or the players begin playing back on the PGA Tour together, Bubba's legacy will always be remembered. An erratic player who never had a lesson and changed the way people look at golf to this day. One for the people and one for the fan favourites. Bubba Watson was and is one hell of an exciting golfer.